As you may or may not remember, in the springtime, I spend about 8 hours most Saturdays on the baseball field. This is the traditional Little League season. Of course, these days leagues play all throughout the year, but our neighborhood league still only plays from late March to mid-June. This year, my team chose to call themselves the Red Devils, which I thought was very funny. We had a great season and then a very weird loss at the playoffs yesterday. I know, it was sad. Baseball is a funny sport, right? It can be so painfully slow, but there's something about it, at least for me. Ingrained in my memory are car rides home from spring and summer weekends away at the relatives, the sound of the Mets game on the radio as my brother and I dozed off in the back seat. The feel of the dusty field under my feet and of the leather in my hand are familiar. My children play on the same field I played on as a child. The sounds of kids laughing and cheering each other on, and even the sounds of their frustration, are like a soundtrack from my own childhood. There's a nostalgia that comes with coaching. But to be clear, I don't do it to recapture my own childhood, but because I think that this kind of seasonal team sport was formative for me and can be for kids now. I want the kids that I coach to understand and to one day coach their own teams and one day walk on that field in the early morning light and feel present in that moment, but also transported back to when they were 15, 14, 13, 12, all the way down to that first moment they walked up to the tee and heard a whole bunch of smiling faces shout their name. Every time I step on the ball field, I'm reminded of one of my favorite movies from when I was young, Field of Dreams. People have seen this? Okay. So it's a movie about families and nostalgia and baseball. And it has some of the best lines ever delivered about all of the above. And you may remember that Ray Kinsella, played by Kevin Costner, moves out to Iowa to a farm and then plows under his whole corn crop to build a baseball field. And essentially then the ghosts of the baseball players from the past come out of the cornfield and play on his field. And toward the end, he's trying to decide if he needs to turn the farm over to the bank because he's destroyed his crop and ruined his chance to earn a living. And in that moment, James Earl Jones, who plays a reclusive author who's been sort of brought out to this Iowa field, he delivers that stirring speech, and he says in part, he says, "People will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up in your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it, for it's money they have and peace they lack. And they'll walk out to the bleachers and sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines, where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game, and it'll be as if they've dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick they'll have to brush them away from their faces. People will come, Ray. The constant through all the years has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again, but baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, it's part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good and could be again. People will come, Ray. They will most definitely come." Now, I can barely get through that passage without getting a little bit teary. And of course, my own love for that movie and love for the game contribute to those tears. But like the reading from Sandra Cisneros, this passage speaks to something common in our human condition. The passage of time, our search for constants, our relationship to memory, and the consciousness with which we approach our own finitude. I realize that the 6-year-olds and even the 10-year-olds that I coach don't know that these moments are being sealed into their beings. They don't know they're doing anything more than playing a game. But even in just a few short months, whether they know it or not, things are happening. Because the lessons of baseball are many, from how to win graciously and lose gracefully, to how to forgive and move past shared and individual mistakes, how to stay cool under pressure. Baseball is a mental game as much as anything. They're learning how to grab at that perfect afternoon, revel in it, live in it, win or lose. And they're learning about teamwork, how to rely on each other, how in spite of the stats that the coaches keep, they're learning how not to tally up each other's successes and failures, their moments of glory and missteps, and instead to know that the game's end is the culmination of many moments enacted by all the players, and that we don't judge our team by the final score of one game. They're learning that the best teams celebrate each win as everyone's win and commiserate together about each loss as a shared loss. They're learning that a team rises and falls together. As in baseball, so in life. In our families, everything works best when we work together as a team without recriminations or keeping score. Parents, children, friends, whoever we count as our people, each brings different gifts, each brings different weaknesses. And in any season of life, those might change. Our capacity might shift. The balance will adjust. When resentment and competition and blame creep in, it harms our families. In a congregation, staff, lay leaders, members, guests, whoever we count as our community, each brings different gifts, each brings different weaknesses. And in any season of life, those might change. Our capacity might shift, the balance will adjust. When resentment and competition and blame creep in, it harms our congregations. Our success in every community, every team we participate in, comes when we try best to understand each other, when we encourage each other's growth without dragging each other down. And gosh, are there so many ways that we drag each other down. In our relationships with our families, in the institutions we're part of, in our friendships and on our teams. We expect people to read our minds. We expect things to always stay the same. We expect others to do things exactly the way we would. We expect people to get it right every time, but offer us grace when we get it wrong. There are so many ways that we can undermine and tear apart our teams, especially when we feel under stress, and I see it on the ball field, when they start to lose the game and they begin to unravel. If you've ever watched children play, you've seen this start to happen. They stop cheering for each other, they start talking trash about the umpire or the other team, or even about their own teammates, trying to identify whose fault it is that things are going wrong. And if the grown-ups on the field don't pay attention and don't offer them a solid place to land, they come unglued, and they blame each other, or they complain, and they start to play beneath their own skill and potential. As in baseball, so too in life. On my Little League team, we do a lot of breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and some of the kids are like, really, do we have to again? And I tell them it's because if you practice it when you aren't worried, when you get stressed in the game, you'll remember how. Your body will know what to do. And so when it begins to unravel, I call out their name and I say clearly, hey, breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You've got this. And they do it. Their body stills, their eyes close, their breath comes in and out, and they just stop for a moment. And I say, trust your team, trust that there will be good days and bad ones, trust that something here is worth your time, your commitment, even if it doesn't feel perfect and joyful every moment. Breathe and just show up right now. That's what we need from you. Just show up. Do your best, do what you can, right here, right now, and we are still going to support you afterwards because you are part of us. This is our team and you're a part of it. We're in it together, and I swear to you, you can watch them come back. You can watch them remember that they aren't alone out on the field and that it isn't about every little play. It's about how they approach the whole game. They breathe and they're reminded that they have a center that holds, a center from which they can understand what's happening, put it in perspective, make some meaning out of it. You can see the change, and my ministerial heart believes that somewhere inside, they grasp that what they need, whether we win or lose, is right there on that dusty field. What they need is time, memories, a team to belong to. It's the chance to be themselves, to try and grow and learn and stretch and fail and build something bigger than themselves. That's what it is to be human. We want to belong. We want to create something. We want to leave behind a legacy. We want to know that we have a place across space and time. Not saying everyone should play baseball. There are many ways to achieve it, but I believe this to be perhaps the single most important fundamental truth of what it is to be human. We need to feel we belong. We need to belong, and yet we are human, and there are so many ways that belonging is broken by others and by us, through trash talk, lack of support, lack of teamwork, lack of honesty, lack of sincerity, lack of a willingness to dig in and do our part. Belonging is broken by rejection, by a tit for tat keeping score, by refusing to offer each other grace and forgiveness. Belonging is broken each time we place ourselves outside the team, either above it or below it. I probably don't need to tell you that belonging can be broken in so many ways. And too often people feel like they stand outside of families and teams and social groups and communities. And I absolutely believe that when people feel they don't belong, or when they've been rejected by a group to which they thought they belonged, when they don't have that sense of grounding and connectedness from which to make meaning of their lives, they will cast about and they will fill that hole right up with something else. In an ideal world, that hole gets filled with another loving, justice-seeking, open community. But too often, that hole of belonging and meaning gets filled with false idols, or perhaps even worse, by manipulative folks with an agenda who promise meaning and belonging, with fake teams and conspiracy theories and supremacist groups and cults. Too often, people fill that deeper need for belonging and meaning with things that hurt them or hurt others. For it's money they have and peace they lack, goes that line from Field of Dreams. Too many of us lack peace in our world, the peace of community and belonging, lack the peace of feeling known and loved and supported. We live in a world that is hurting in many ways, but a world that is not unfixably broken. I believe that to the core of my being. And in part, the answers are right in front of us, in belonging, in teamwork, in exactly what we say we build here, an honest community of support and care and celebration and joy, a community that offers not the false gods of money and privilege and power, not the false gods of recrimination and oppression and competition, not the false gods of violence and self-righteousness, but instead a community that offers kindness, honesty, an embrace of our complex human lives, an encouragement toward meaning-making, an open seeking, a deep sense of belonging. There's a Welsh term, hiraeth. Hope I got that close. And as defined by Fari Diba, it means a spiritual longing for a home which maybe never was, nostalgia for ancient places to which we cannot return. It is the echo of lost places of our soul's past and our grief for them. It is in the wind and the rocks and the waves. It is nowhere and it is everywhere. That definition hits me like the passage from Field of Dreams and like the passage about being 11. It resonates, this idea that our human hearts and souls know a yearning We have a spiritual longing for times to which we cannot return, for the sense of belonging we have experienced in the past. Change comes, time moves forward. We can't go back. We are never not the years that have come before. All is contained within us. And we cannot stop time. I've said that before, and I'll probably say it over and over. All we can ever do is recommit to the teams we want to be a part of, determined to create belonging and not break it, covenanting to share and not judge, to speak honestly and encouragingly and not undermine, rejoicing in the knowledge that we are not alone and that we are creating memories and moments and communities worthy of someone else's future nostalgia. All we can do in the face of being human and the passage of time is to honor what is, mourn our losses, celebrate our successes, build together, and always keep chasing the joy of a perfect afternoon, thick with memories in the sunshine and the dirt. May we remember always to stop and breathe. May we know always the fulfillment of belonging, and may we create that possibility for others. So may it be.